Hey guys, how's it going? It's February 22nd, 2018, just shy 9:30 p.m. And I'm going to do a little something, like I said in the description, don't get your hopes up, but I'm actually in Run8 right now. Before I do that, I want to look back at a posting and see where we stand, and basically I had to remind myself exactly the last communication, other than the one I heard that was posted again to Facebook, which I am no longer on anyways, so I'm not worried about going back to Facebook just to get the latest updates of Run8 or anything else for that matter. But I'll let other people let me know, which works out pretty good because I got some news today as well, which was Facebook related. But anyways, I'll get to that in a moment. This is over on the Depot. I appreciate that the fact that the Depot is still posting it. I also appreciate the fact that Depot, despite my issues with them and everything, not so much Sean, but I think the admins and some of their two-facedness, I guess, to say the least, I can still actually link to the Depot. I can't. I can even go into the forums. I just can't do anything else. But other than that, that's fine. So it's definitely appreciated that I can actually view, if not participate. But I really didn't. You know, it turns my stomach to try to participate in that, anyways, for various reasons. But I don't want to get negative here. Let's keep this positive. So I'm glad he does. Sean does great things for the community, and he still does, and it's good. But anyways, this was posted in the Depot News. It was December 13th. I actually checked the Run8 studio site just to see if it was posted there in the news, and it wasn't. The only place you can find it is at least posted publicly that I'm aware of is here. So maybe it was posted on Train Sim 2. I'm not sure. But anyways, so obviously there was setbacks for the year because of both moves and with Brad's health and you know, very serious stuff. Obviously, you know, life is much more important than money or anything. You know, it's your life. I mean, so hopefully he's feeling good now, as he says in this. And as I've said before, I mean, you know, I wish him all the best in that. You know, we've butted heads, but trust me when I say this, for me, it's never been about anger or anything like that, or it's always been about, you know, the joy that I've had over the past 6 years, and always wanting more, and it's just, you get so much of a good thing that you want more, despite the fact that I'm not really doing anything in Run8 right now, but we'll see. But I'll get to that. It has nothing to do with these guys. I mean, so so back then, what's interesting about this is the one rumor about the LA is almost there, probably looking at a late March release. That's looking very feasible, actually. So that's good news. I think they're pretty much on pace with that. So that's, you know, really good news, actually, when you think about that this was back in December, and so far they seem to be you know, working well in the background. I don't think they're on the forums much, which is probably a good thing, to some extent. So he's also working on version 3, which, you know, that's going to be one of those things that I'm going to have to really consider as far as a purchase. I mean, I don't regret my purchase of version 2. I think I had my money's worth almost within those two or 3 months after version 2 came out, because that to me was the peak. So they will be introducing rain, snow, which is fine, other cool environmental stuff. I mean, that stuff is cool. I mean, but honestly, even with the shadows and the eye candy, it really hasn't. I don't want to say it hasn't mattered. It really hasn't been a factor for me. I know it is for some people, but for me, it really was. It wasn't. I was kind of thinking about this today when I was thinking about UE4. As much as it's really cool on the eye candy, there's no substance to my program. So that's the only thing it's got right now is a little bit of eye candy, courtesy of UE4, and it looks really cool, but it does absolutely nothing. I kind of think Train Sim World falls into that category. Although it does something, I'll get into this comparisons as far as what Run8 is, and as far as everything, and a little further here. The scheduled AI is an important thing for me. And the reason why I opened up Run8 is because I've done this before, but I want to re-look at things again, and basically take a look around. I swear, it's like this 1 hour where these dogs start going goofy. I don't know why it is. I think it's they go for their nightly walks, and there's like 4 of them up there, and they take their turns. Wow. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I gotta replay one of these days. Whoa. I'm just glad I can actually sleep and not have to. If I worked any other shift, it would be I'd be going nuts. And I mean, they're good guys upstairs. I get along with them fine. They don't party or anything like that, but... Okay. I can't even speak right now until they shut up. Because obviously nobody's home. One's out walking or whatever. Because I think they take turns taking walks. Anyways, what was I saying before I was so rudely interrupted? Jeez. So rain, snow, other cool environment, as I was saying, whatever. Okay, so scheduled AI is important for me because that will represent a huge change. I don't expect external dispatcher, and in fact I was talking a lot about this, or thinking about this a lot in the past day or two, of how much an AI dispatcher, or the ability to have access to an external dispatcher code, like really have a clear-cut way so that anybody who's a developer like myself or others has a clear-cut channel to know how to deal with the external dispatcher. Because I'll tell you something right now, I don't care what it is, if it's Visual Basic, through net or whatever, that would become my #1 priority. I mean, hands down. It's what's really making a huge difference between being able to run some of these big territories. Now, there's also other things in here that has my interest, at least. So they have the scheduled AI, some other cool stuff, so just turntables, transfer data. Okay, they're fine, but I don't really need them, but they're fine. I mean, I obviously this isn't just for me; it's for tons of people. Everybody's going to have their reasons of thinking, hey, I got to purchase this. Working drawbridges, that I'm interested in. I think that's a cool thing. So they're looking at by the end of 2018, which may work good for the way my outdoor plans are. That's going to start in the spring, because I'm going to kick those into high gear and hopefully spend a lot less time on the computer. Until then, it's still winter, despite the fact that the weather's been fairly mild here as of late for some strange reason. But we'll see how long that lasts. I'm going down south, Folkestone. Well, 2.5 weeks away now we'll be in Folkestone, so I'm looking forward to that. So 3 new regions are under development. We don't know what that's about, along with 6 new routes. Some small, some large. I like this. The fact that it's specified with some small makes me interested, because now I'm thinking, okay, well, this is what I'm kind of looking for. Because for single player, this is basically what we need. The ability to go in. The other thing about missing with the external dispatcher, or even an improvement to the F3 dispatcher display, would be to have like external dispatcher type functions that would be able to do the things, so that it makes it easier to set up some meets and a few other things, and not constantly look back at the dispatcher panel. I found that was very difficult for me. As much as there's hardly any traffic on Sanford Sub, the way I had it set up towards the end, it was very difficult to be honking at crossings and going back and forth to the F3 dispatcher display and blowing crossings. It was really difficult to run a mainline train and do both. So yeah, so some large, don't care really. Well, maybe I will. I don't know. Depends. It all depends upon what they're talking about and what it contains and stuff. So I mean, that's good. Yes, we brought on more third-party developers. Okay, however, due to our competitors watching everything, that little thing right there. Who's the competitors? I mean, are we talking about? Because if they had real competition, or competition that would actually care, and I'm not saying that Run8 it doesn't compete. Run8 is, as far as I'm concerned, the best simulator out there. These other simulators, and I'm talking Train Sim World. Train Sim World's garbage. Take a look on the Train Sim forums. They're a laughingstock. I don't know about other forums, but they're a laughingstock. They're a huge disappointment. I mean, I said the other day, if Train Sim World never had an editor and just had the ability to have AI dispatching and the ability to have a some kind of generic Run8 like sandbox mode, where you can save and cars can get moved around, you can actually use the yards and have the ability maybe for multiplayer, or at the very least to have AI dispatching or something. So you know, anything away from this stupid ass scenario thing. I don't know what it is with these simulators and scenarios and activities. I mean, they never grew up. Like, how long have we been having to have guys like myself back in the MSTS day, or other guys who have to write activities and scenarios and editors? It's stupid. I mean, you read a story. It's like, for an activity developer like myself, it's like reading your own novel. This is why I don't bother with some of those simulators, and I don't know of any other simulator that really doesn't do that, to be honest. Because everything is like, whoa, here it's a scenario, it's an activity. It's like, that's not how a railroad runs. That's what I like about Run8. You're not set into those restrictions of having to be. My issues with Run8 right now have to do with version 2 has brought on so many cool things that now, unless you have the key people, and that the key people you can count on in key positions. I'm not just talking about people who can run trains. Anybody can run a train. But having the key people in the key positions and knowing that they're going to be there. And that's the thing. And I know I've had a lot of people that, say, yeah, hey, I'm ready to go, but okay. And then I'm looking for times, I'm looking for this. I don't know. I just cannot I honestly cannot push myself into that mode when in the past I've pushed myself into that mode with a lot more people, I might add, and it still fell apart. I've seen it. I've seen these things still fall apart on a bigger scale. Had nothing to do with my server. It was the RTS California server that on Mike's. And they're doing their thing, and it's you know, it's pretty cool. I think it's one of the best servers out there. But I haven't been inclined to go on to it as of late. That's not really my thing anymore. It's not, just running a train amongst other people or just being part of a system amongst other people. That's, at certain times you're running locals, other times you're running AI. It's just like, no, I like the whole thing. I like to be able to do the whole thing. That's why, to me, 24/7 is not appealing to me anymore. I want to be able to see or do it all, or have the potential to do it all in the same environment. Which leads to AI dispatching, the ability to have a 24/7 server, and you have a dispatcher that continuously does the AI. Possibly AI switching, possibly AI humping, although that's not necessary. You could still have the trains move through and then have the locals run it at a lower frequency. That would still give you about 90 some odd percent of the traffic flow. And then you could, figure it out that way. More people would get on, and then you go into a demand system. You run off at demand. But running, for me personally, running at nowhere near the capacity of these double track lines, which are the majority of California right now, is double track. Having that capacity and being able to actually attain that capacity, especially now that they've expanded. You think about that for a moment. Think about the real capacity and the real volume of those lines. You cannot do it. No, there's not a server. There's not. Actually, if you combine a lot of the servers out there, the ones that still exist, I don't think you would have enough people to run. On a regular basis, dispatching or whatever on a 24/7 basis. I don't think you could do it. Around the clock? I don't think so. You'd have to, figure out times and figure out. I've always tried to do it, and one of the hardest things for me has always been able to plan everything, because you try to organize something and it's just like, okay, hey, I'm in. Well, okay, what kind of times are you there? Oh, I'm in. Well, okay, well, you're in. That's great. That doesn't tell me anything. Here's the days I'm looking to run. What do you like? Are they good for you? It's you might get a couple people respond, and then you don't get nothing. And you're just like, yeah, forget it. The only thing I want to do is make sure I can do it in single player first and foremost. Rely on myself. Rely on myself to be able to do it first. Nobody else. And if I can do it myself and I can run it myself and everything, is not too challenging, then that's why I look at the smaller ones. So anyways, this whole competitors watching everything, I don't know who those competitors are, but to me, Train Sim World didn't take enough notes of what Run8 was doing, because they had a tremendous opportunity, and I thought they were going to do it. They haven't done it. There's nothing that Train Sim World has brought to the table to even come close to Run8. And what are the other simulators out there? Are there other ones? Are there the cross ties? What are they? They fumbled up. Problem is, you're in a niche market. You need passionate people like Brad and the guys, and John, Nigel. You need passionate people. Jason, Jim. You need passionate people. I'm sure I've forgotten a few names, but passionate people who love what they do. who, yeah, they like the money, but they have the experience. They've done third-party software in the past, so they have, not only do they have the will and the drive, but they have the experience of the 3D modeling, the activities, the dealing with physics, dealing with the setup of engines, you name it. They have all that experience. That shows in what they deliver. Whether or not I'm happy with where things are right now, well, hey, that's because I'm a fan. I'm still a fan, despite the fact that I may not be happy and I don't use it as much. It's kind of frustrating, but you know, that's just the way things are. Things progress, people change, things change, and you can't always rely on people. So they're going to keep their cards close to their vest, which they always do. I understand that, and I learned to appreciate it a little bit more when I started talking about developing, and then I just spilled the beans and said what I was going to do anyways. But that came to mind, and legal matters recently started coming to mind when I started trying to get people to help me, and then I was just like, well, wait a minute. That's putting myself into some pretty heavy risk, especially if I'm going to start selling. It's different if it's a shareware or an open source thing. But when you start making money off of it, yeah, things can get ugly. And I don't know enough people personally, and I do mean personally, and even if you have friends, going in business with friends is not the best thing to do. Without good contracts, good solid partnership agreements, stuff like that. It was just ill-advised on my part, and I apologize for getting anybody's hopes up. So dates, prices, etc. Prices is going to be, I'm not worried about dates so much. The prices we'll wait and see, because I don't know how much more I'm willing to invest, especially on something that's laying dormant now. Release more information as we get closer to releasing them. So, more train sets. Yeah, I know some people are looking for it. I'm not worried about it. A yard switcher maybe, but again, I want to support the guys, but money's tight these days, and I'm trying to, as you probably well know, I'm looking into the bag thing. So, anyways, so this was the holiday. They seem to be on track so far. That's good news. The question is now, for me personally, where do I go from here? And to start off, let me start looking around again. And I started thinking, I actually started looking into this last night a little bit. I think I was already off. As crazy as it sounds, as much as I love the hump is actually something I'm not looking to bother with, because the hump still is a manual heavy operation, at least from what I can see. I love the hump, don't get me wrong. I love operating the hump. Of course, there's issues with the hump too, especially it really shows up in Florida, because I think it's a little bigger and the strings are bigger. But let me take a look at various things. I'm going to start out with California, since it is the major base. I did have a Bakersfield project at one time. I want to see what do we got for spawn points. And I was looking at this last night. Ideally, what I want to do, and I tried to do it with Florida. The thing with Florida was it became, California is actually easier to dispatch and run at the same time, at the very least. So that seemed somewhat more interesting. What I liked about what I liked about Florida was the way the locals were set up. But just because one's prototypical doesn't necessarily mean it has to stay that way. And the good thing about California is there's lots of room to do different things. There's a lot of openness, there's a lot of grades, stuff like that. I'm very familiar with it as well. So So when we're looking at trains coming out of Bakersfield, for example, I'm looking for a short stretch between spawn points. The only ones that I can think of, really, Barstow says it centers in around a lot. Oddly enough, I can't think of anything that really trying to think now. What I'm looking at are smaller yards and smaller industry segments, just to get a sense of an area, running an area. Now, Bakersfield project was more about Bakersfield. The only problem with that is you still have to run all the way up to, let me see here. So, if I recall, the Bakersfield project was centered, and we had a spawn. I don't know if we had a spawn at Highland. I don't even know if we went that far, to be quite honest. Could have been. I think my guess would be was that we incorporated the UP, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Not sure. So there's a lot of area. There's more obviously with UP than worried about BNSF, although there is a little bit here. That doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of switching at Edison. Single track railroading. It is a long stretch. You got Mojave. So, despite the fact that I abandoned Bakersfield project, it almost seems worth trying again. At least there's a part of me that wants to at least give it a shot. I've got the itch to try. Question is, how long can I sustain it? Would be the interesting thing. So I think if anything, that's a possibility. I don't know for sure. I'd have to play around with it and then decide, whether or not. And the good thing about Bakersfield, or at least setting up, what you do is you just set up the spawns for Highland. You could run BNSF spawns as well. The traffic is fairly manageable here. It's not too difficult to dispatch and run at the same time. So I mean, there's some possibilities. So I see that as definitely feasible, and I may look into it at least, and then take a look at some of the industries as far as what's being tagged, what's in the industry list, and then see what, basically what works, I guess. Wow, the barking continues. So I'll think about that one. That avoids all the humps. I don't have to worry about humps. I don't have to be worried about massive. I'm just trying to think as far as an operation. You would have basically trains that would run out of, I imagine we'd have the BNSF trains and add them in too. Once they get down to here, I could use, because I think I have a spawn point. Do I have a spawn point at Vincent as well? I think I do. Oh, I do. So you have Highland and Vincent. What that could represent is that could play, and I think I did this before too, is I think I had one did UP, one did BNS. I may have to investigate my the various setups there. And of course, unfortunately, that you lose Cajon, but this kind of gives you the idea of like a smaller there's really nothing to switch on the way here other than Edison. So you're running a lot of mainline trains, which you could either, if you feel in the mood to run a mainline train, you could run a mainline train, or you can run the locals. Now, I'm not too sure how long it would take to run all the various locals. It's been a while since I've tried it, but I'd be willing to try just for the fun of it. And you notice I'm saying just for the fun of it, because really all I have to do is let the industries go and say, here, give me some trains. And it's just as simple as that. When you start getting into the double track territories, now you're dealing with the major transcon. So you're dealing with a lot of volume. You're dealing with a lot of variation at that point. So that gets a little tricky. And it just looks capacity-wise. I don't even have to go major prototype. I can just freelance it and relaunch the Bakersfield project. Ditto with Cajon. The other way of doing it is to go that way. I'm not too sure about. I don't think there's a spawn point for here. I think the spawn point comes out of here by the hump, and then another at Yermo. No. And I really haven't checked the other route, but I don't think it's going to work anyways, because it's just basically an extension of Needles. Barstow, I was kind of thought about that, but there's really nothing. The only thing I can think of with Barstow as a possibility, because I do like hump yards so much, although I don't know how well the Barstow hump is working these days. And I don't know if I'd get tired of doing this or not, to be quite honest. No. Well, I was going to say, in theory, you could run everything out of Yermo. And I believe Lenwood has a spawn as well. I don't think, wait a minute. Okay, so there's Lenwood. Was there another Highland, Saco, and Vincent? Okay, Saco's over by Saco's UP. Okay, gotcha. Alright, so that takes care of that one. So that's the southeast. Or sorry, that's the southwest, sorry. Southeast, I certainly love. It was rapidly becoming one of my favorite routes. Sanford was kind of fun to do. I'm trying to think of as far as what it was that, like, I don't know. There was some. I know there was something I ran into that was just, well, it was probably dispatching and going back and forth and all the honking the horns, and it's, yeah, there was a lot more work involved with it than probably a little bit too much switching for my liking. And despite the fact that I had measures in there to do the automatic turnaround and all the other stuff, I wasn't too sure about it. So California really, makes it interesting. It's kind of strange how I actually just sent a private message over to Dale, basically telling him, and then after I heard Highland today, and now there's a part of me that wants to at least try this, or at least get it going, but I'm not too worried about advertising or anything like that. Personally, at this point, I'm more interested in word of mouth. I can do a bunch of YouTube. If this does become successful and it's something that I decide that I want to continue doing or get back into doing, and it's kind of amazing that I'm even thinking about this right now, because I do love Run8. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I miss it. I just unfortunately don't miss the stress involved with it. It was getting, it started feeling too much like a job. So I want to get away from that. But let's take a look here at the, I'll go at extra board, doesn't matter where. See if there's anything else that I can think of. Yeah, there's a lot of industries, and that was, one thing that was kind of, there's a lot of industries, and there's a lot of mainline running, and there's a lot of stopping and going, and it was just like, it felt too big. And then it was hard to dispatch once you actually had trains on there, and it didn't feel right. I actually love the fact, heck, I'm going down to Folkestone. I love Folkestone. I would love to see this running in a full-fledged AI. Everybody, all hands on deck, have people running in Jacksonville. It's kind of what I was hoping to see with the Southeast server, like basically running sessions and dispatchers and full traffic loads and the whole thing. But the Southeast servers, basically, as far as I know, they're still a tight bunch of guys who enjoy switching. And yeah, they occasionally will run dispatching and main lines, but then you lose your. For me personally, you lose part of it. You get one part of it, then you miss part of it, and that's for me the tough part. I don't know about this one either. There's a lot of spawn points. There's a lot more spawn points actually. Of course, you got with Jacksonville, Ludowiski Manor, Moncrief, Race. Let me see about that. Well, you got the stuff that comes down into here. So you have stuff spawning out of Race Pond, Winnaker still. Trains come down here. You have Callahan spawning, which really doesn't do much. Jacksonville spawns in both directions. I don't know about Grand Junction. Was there one for that too? Oh, I know the NS had it. Brunswick sub. Okay, that's Brunswick sub. Callahan sub. Jacksonville ramps. Ludowiski. Okay, that's Manor. Moncrief goes both ways. Then you got your Taft. Waycross. Winnaker. Where's Winnaker? Can't remember. Oh, that up there. Okay, I knew it sounded familiar. Yeah, as much as I love Florida, I can't see it working enough. Yeah, I said it right the first time. Let me go back and give Selkirk a look. This is another one I like. One of, as I've said before, one of the more beautiful routes out there. Did I do extra board? I think I did. I don't know for sure though. So, of course, yeah, there's the hump and all, and there's supposed to be, I heard rumor of an update coming for this. I don't know what that's about. I have some ideas, but so we've got a lot of spawn points, including Selkirk, Oneida, Little Falls. See, there's a lot of potential there, but then again, we're looking at capacity. However, just because there's capacity doesn't necessarily mean it has to have volume. especially when this line at right now is actually under capacity in the real life, as far as I know. It doesn't have the volume it once did. You know, there's once upon a time it was 4 tracks, a 4-track main line, as you've seen with some of the bridges. From an operation standpoint, it can get a little bland. But just trying to think now what could work on this. You've got I think there's spawn issues when you have a big train coming off of the Hudson. You can do the passenger trains or something, or can you even spawn a train off Hudson? I think you can. Yeah, that would be it right there. Milepost 112. Yeah. So when you have it spawn off of 112, when you have the bigger freights, if I'm not mistaken, they will cause an issue where the whole train won't spawn, so that creates an issue for in fact, I don't know if I can do it. Let me see if I can. It looks like the only thing I have is mixed freights. Yeah, I don't even have it set up right now. Alright, we'll leave it. I'm not going to worry about it, but was there another? There's a lot of spawn locations at this. Amsterdam, that's going both ways, which is really cool. CPSK, CP293, Fonda, Little Falls, Oneida. I can't remember what some of these names are. I thought there was one that came out of here. Schenectady. Maybe not. Maybe I'm or CP Rail, isn't there? Is there one that comes out of CP Rail? I don't think there is. Might be. It's the numbers I'm not too familiar with. 293. That would be a CP 159. What's that CP 293? Or is that way over here? Okay, hang on a second. Oh, that's from Buffalo. Okay, gotcha. Let me take a look here. So Amsterdam, the Castleton sub at CPSK. Alright, yeah, now I'm remembering. It's been a while. Fonda, Little Falls, Oneida. Wow. That's interesting. So they had a Little Falls too. Which is kind of interesting. I believe it goes up this way. So Fonda, Little Falls. Never really thought of it that way. Where's Oneida? It's been a while. Okay, it's not DeWitt. Oh, okay. Wow. See, I like that there's a lot of spawn points. That's makes things somewhat interesting. Because the reason why I say that is because you can break down a railroad and do just a little bit of a section and turn it into something. And that's something I've been that's been really where I've been headed for a while now. Is take it into a bite size where you can manage it. Let me just do a little bit of a exploratory. So they start in the sidings, which is really good. Fonda, Little Falls, Oneida. Those are small sections. Those aren't that bad. St. Johnsville. Where's that? Wow. You know, I honestly, I never really took a look at those before. Which really starts me thinking again. Question is it possible? I mean, is anything possible? So, Little Falls, Fonda, St. Okay, so let's. So we're starting at Oneida. And I mean, we can go a lot of different ways here. So I may want to take a look at the map here. Mohawk has got a lot of potential now that I look at that. Despite the fact that it's double track, which means, well, from a dispatching standpoint, it's pretty much, you know, you're running it as a highway basically. You're not. You don't get your meets, but you get your pass-throughs. I'm thinking, what I'm thinking along the lines of is a supply thing. So you're supplying a set of industries, but making it manageable. You get what I'm saying? Because I don't know I cannot remember exactly what happened with Bakersfield project, if it got too long or I didn't have certain methods in play. California is still interested, and I wish there was a way. I can't think of anything in Florida other than the Sanford sub was the closest thing, and then it gets too difficult to dispatch and do all the grade crossings. Of course, there's no external dispatcher for this, so you're kind of blind. I'm going to take a look at a map here before I go take a look at. I hate doing this because I don't want to bring anybody. First of all, like, I'm not going to announce servers. I'm not going to announce nothing. I've learned my lesson. I've done that too many times, and I hate taking people for a ride. I've probably done it so many times that. Where are we at here? Well, I'm the various user guides. Wow, I don't even know where the hell I'm at. Oh, I was into the user guides? What the hell was I looking at? Okay, well, get out of there. No, cancel that. Suddenly, all of a sudden, Mohawk has interested me again. California still interests me, don't get me wrong. So I'll take it. So we got Fonda Yard. Okay. And I mean, Utica, despite the fact... And see, this is where I think I was still in the prototypical mindset. I wasn't thinking of proto-lance or freelance or playing around. I mean, you got street running. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff here if you can fill up. I'm not too sure if you can fill up a yard. Problem is, these trains come in and then they need a big place to go. Or a somewhat big place, although, yeah, that's about your biggest right there. I mean, as long as they can be broken down. I'm just trying to think. Which is why I also like with Sanford Sub, the way they had their yards. It was really nice. Okay, so, well, that's a pretty big yard. I'm not, maybe a little bit too big. There was one yard I liked in particular. Was it this one? Yeah, this kind of... Utica... Utica always seemed like an interesting yard. And I've always liked the idea of having a main line and then having a short line operation. Which this kind of, you know, it kind of feels that way with this. Where we go 248 all the way to 237. So I could run a train out of Oneida. Run it east. Now, how do I get it to delete itself? That'd be the tough part. Well, not necessarily the tough part. Actually, there you go. So if I want a train to delete itself, then I imagine, well, I don't know for sure if it would delete itself if I threw a switch here and then just have it, or just basically delete them down the line someplace, or have them stage off and delete them later, which is, you know, it's not a big deal. It's interesting. And I might try a couple different ones and see what I like. Like, it's 10:20 tonight. I might stay up a little bit just to play around, but I'm not sure. I'm actually, which is very odd considering last night I went to bed at 10 o'clock last night again. Started getting into YouTube at first, and then I was just like, okay, forget it. So there's not that many industries, enough to make it interesting. Yeah, Fonda Little Falls doesn't do too much. And of course, then, you know, you can always, like, if I was to do it myself for a while, what happens here? Here's you know, where I see operation versus losing. How would you say? Operation versus simplicity. What I like about this is you can run. Well, here's what I like, the pros and cons. What I like about this is you can really have a small section and run a legitimate short line and just have the AI trains come in, do their thing. But then what happens is once you've done all the switching and your day's over, what do you do next? Because then you're dealing with double track main lines that in a relatively short section with fewer little overtakes, it basically runs like a conveyor belt. So let me look at the scenery. Yeah, I know that I like the scenery, so of course this section here, milepost tags are on. Okay. Well, the milepost tags are on, but I don't remember. Oh, there they are. Okay. So as I've said before, as far as the scenery goes, this is, for me, it's a very scenic route. The amount of trees, just the pure denses. Like I say I don't worry about the shadows and all that stuff, but this is, for me, it's always been a fun route to run. And I do remember some times when I was doing the Selkirk project where I would be like, hey, this is pretty cool. Because I remember, trains were going through and I was running here and I felt part of it. Even if I was, just running myself. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, I remember we had you could have trains coming off the St. Lawrence sub here too. So I'm just going to take a look at Mohawk. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with Selkirk. There's a lot in and around Selkirk. I mean, definitely a lot of various industries. Of course, it's a little bit busier around Syracuse. And then we're talking, the intermodal and the yards and stuff like that. But I'm going to fly through a little bit further back. Now, if I recall, running the main lines can get, you go between two extremes. You have Sanford, which, despite the fast speeds, can be very challenging. Oh, it's a detector. I was like, what the hell is that? There's a fair number of crossings here too, so. But at least from a dispatching standpoint, it's pretty straightforward. The downside to that is it's pretty much of a standard run, and you're not going to really run into too much stuff. You mean you can pretty much light yourself up and go. So that's where a Bakersfield project appeals a little bit more. The grades are a little bit slower, yes. There's more. It is a little bit more challenging to run. But like I said, the scenery is really cool, especially when you start getting along the river here. We got Team Track. Of course, I certainly, you know, around Oneida and, you know, different places like that, I know that there's a lot of cool different things to run. Decisions. Like I said, I could probably run a little bit of both, but I'd really like to build up something, and I know I'm talking this way. I've got a long, when it comes to development, I got a long learning schedule, and that's where I kind of just like. And I was telling my son tonight. He says, you know, he still wants to do it. I says, okay, well then we got to learn how to do it, and that's all there is to it. We have to learn how to do it. And then once we learn how to do it over time, we get to develop it, and you know, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? And I don't want to get tied down to where this becomes my main thing again. I really don't want to, because that's the trap I fell in last time. I was so busy trying to get this to work, or that I was resenting it, honestly. And I'm curious to see what other routes are going to come out. I'm curious to see other people and their YouTube videos, and how, you know, what they have. Oh yeah, this is, I like this sections too. This is nice stuff. So there's a lot of interesting short line like operations where, yeah, because it has that little. See, I never got to do that. I always thought that was kind of cool. And there's times where you know, the good thing about running a 24-hour cycle and being able to go through it is you get to, you know, you get to run along the clock. Maybe do a little bit of night running if it's good. So it is possible, but I don't want to be stuck into a situation where I feel like I'm running locals all the time either. Eventually, I do want to open it back up to a server, despite the fact that I just told everybody I'm done. Which, you know, I'm not as active, or whatever the hell you want to call it. Inactive, I guess it is. Yeah, I want to fly up here for a minute. Look at all the freaking trees. And it doesn't, I mean, it really doesn't hurt performance at all. It just runs great. There's a lot of bridges here. I like those because then you don't have to worry so much about grade crossings. Okay. This looks like Oneida. Yep. So I never really got around to doing much of that, but that's another feasible one, just to have a short line in this area. And because we have sidings not too far away, again though, what do you do at night when you only have those short little runs to do? That's, yeah, it's one of those. I guess it would have been the same way with others too, but I've always wanted to have a somewhat busier main line, but not that much industry. Obviously, you know, I'm looking for something in particular, but if it is going to be busier, at least not have to feel as though I'm delegated to dispatching, so that I have various options. And I suppose when I look at this, the options are a little bit more limited the shorter I make it. But at the same time, I can see this becoming, as much as the scenery is nice and all, and I love running on it, it can get a little boring. I mean, it's beautiful and all, but it can get a little boring because the grades don't change too much on this. It's relatively a fast, well, you know, New York Central, like, they laid out a great road along the Mohawk Valley, so the grades, you know, are relatively calm. And then, you know, other places, like you can see the hills in the background here on the other side of the valley here. Oh yeah, Little Falls. Yeah. I mean, from down here, I mean, it's just really cool running through this, and some beautiful running down here. And traffic. Again, if you have enough people, you got a dispatcher on a regular basis, you have locals, you have, you know, ideally if you have enough people, then it's feasible. But you have to have enough people to fill in those key positions, and that's the thing. Okay. It's hard for me to turn down Selkirk again, but let me go back to Southwest. Southeast, I can't think of anything that works in a relatively short frame. I mean, there's a few industries around Waycross. Hang on a second. Southwest. Let me go into, I'm gonna go, wow, March 13th. Almost a year. Let me just take a look at the Selkirk project and see what exactly I had. Corrupt train moved due to misplaced trucks. Okay. I don't know what that's all about. Oh, I see. I ran everything this way into Dyke, off into... I remember that. What about going the other way? Well, I just run them off the main. Well, I'll just run this for a tiny bit and play around. I don't know what the corrupt train was that moved out of the way, but I'll just run this for a half an hour and take a look around. Definitely missed this, and I mean the scenery is beautiful in its own right here too. Absolutely. I had to redo it so that I get the right moon. I forget if this was the last thing I tried. I'm trying to remember how the hell I had this set up. But originally I was gonna focus it out of there, but if I focus on UP, there's some potential there. Looks like I lost a Woodford train for some reason. So this makes an interesting potential. See, I'm starting to lean towards that, huh? See, I see all BNSF. I don't see any UP. Which is interesting. And I'm not 100% sure why that is. So I ran the BNSF side on UP. See, I can see running both, but okay. Yeah, so everything's fleeted that way, which makes sense. Well, some mid-train helpers. Did I screw that one up? I may have. I think I screwed that one up. Or I screwed one of these up. No, maybe not. No, he'll be able to hold the main. Of course, the frames are fighting right now at 20. So we'll see how many views this gets, or interest. Like I said, I ain't promising anything right now. This is the first time it's kind of funny because Ski and I were emailing back and forth, and I was just like, I honestly, there was a point where I was thinking of taking the rail driver down. Now, mind you, I'm not using the rail driver at the moment. I'm just experimenting. But it is, you know, it is a beautiful simulator. It always has been. I didn't like it. I just didn't like the feel with how things were working out with Sanford. And don't get me wrong, Florida's awesome. All three routes are awesome. But it's when you add the things together. You add the potential, then you add how many people you have. I know a lot. Maybe I'm just too anal about it. I don't know. The speeds are nice and slow here, so it makes it very easy to dispatch and run. There we go. Pretty tight, but it worked. So basically this whole district could be switched. Now I don't know if I can't remember if there was a certain area that I was switching here or not. Let's take a look around and see if I see any cars at Industries. I don't think we're going to find any, but... Well, it looks like I had everything set up, at least for the spawns, because I see Bakersfield, Highland, Saco, and Vincent, which is pretty much where I was planning it to be. Okay. I'll have to look at the trains again later, but... So I had Vincent and Highland. This is what I thought. No mixed freight. I had mixed intermodal. Okay, I had the UP trains. Just to keep things interesting. I had random AI off. Not too sure why. So I don't know if I was running a schedule or what exactly. That's possible. Trying to avoid duplication or something. Possibly. But I got some other ideas in regards to that. And I think there were ideas that I thought of later on, so... So, let's take a look around and see what we got. Of anything, I doubt it. If I remember right, if I had anything going on, it would have been here. And I don't see anything. It looked like I don't know what the hell I was doing, to be quite honest. It was so long ago, but I do not see anything going on here. Which is interesting. Was it Mojave? Okay, we got some kind of meat thing going on here. There we go. See, it's so easy to set up the meats with these. Oh yeah, Vincent was set as the UP line, if I recall. Oh, and I never gave him any more track. Okay. M Barstow 3. Well, I definitely had it looked like I had the random on, from what I could tell. What do we got here? M. Okay, you're going back into a sighting. Sorry there, Charlie. So still a lot of dealing with switches and signals, which is okay. You want it to be somewhat operationally interesting. But at the same time, when you're at grade or going down is a little bit more challenging. Going up grade, there's a lot of time to play around with signals, which makes it somewhat easier to multitask. I don't know if I had any local cars on here whatsoever. I haven't taken a look at the world count. That could tell me, or give me a pretty good idea. And if that's well, hey, oh no, never mind. I thought we had cars there, we just had the things. So by the looks of it, I hadn't really come up with any decision. Well, that's interesting. Why is that grayed out? Well, this, I still had Barstow operational, so I'm not sure what's going on there. There's nothing, no, I would have to go in and play around with that at some point. I'm not sure where I was at with this. I can't recall. This is daunting to me, the amount of switching just for SJVR alone, which kind of makes me want to focus more on Mojave's interesting to me. It's somewhat interesting, but it's kind of boring at the same time. This is quite involved, whereas Mojave, well, honestly though, Mojave's got, I keep forgetting, we've got this section here now. So I'm very familiar with this. You've got you know, you got a little bit up here. You've got your lines that just go up and service whatever the heck they're supposed to service. Don't do a hell of a lot. So you got the Tehachapi turn, which is somewhat interesting. What I don't know too much about, though, is this section here. But I know there's something. Now, that would generally be run by the flyer, I think. But let's fly through here. We got industry that I've really never switched. We never set this up. Even when it was still available to us, we never really set this up. Because we never had a Mojave Flyer until the extension came out, and by the time the extension came out, I don't recall really doing much with it. Because this is where the line used to end. So let's just do a quick fly through here. Probably pass a train along the way, but I mean, despite the fact that you have SJVR, and it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of stuff at SJVR, and I mean, if it's one of those take it or leave it type things, and I mean, Edison is another one. There's one train. So in essence, what we could have is you could have one supply train that's scheduled. That was cool. The light just was on and then just went dark. And Mojave can really become an interesting yard. And I haven't really taken, you know, too much more of a look at it. I mean, Lone Pine and Oak Creek would do pretty much what you would expect it to do, I guess. Which is not much. Another train. Going the other way. So we had something here. Not sure what that is. That looks like a set-out track or something. Okay. Do I have, no, that's okay. Oh. That's what I wanted. So right away now, you know, you're starting to see. I'm not too sure about that set-out track. Well, it's definitely nice to see. Okay. So that is something of some sort. I don't see the purple. Oh, there they are. Okay. And I like to have the supply train feed a yard that turns out, you know, then you work the yard and set up the locals, set up the blocks, or set up the blocking. It's California, which is a default route, which could potentially bring in more people. And I'm certainly open to it. But like I said, I'm not going to set up myself for failure again. I don't mind failing. I mean, if I fail, no big deal, but... So there's not too many industries this way, but at least it's something. And the beautiful part about it is when you're not switching industries, you still have some cool stuff to run. I thought there was some interesting industry somewhere around here of some sort. Okay, good. Vincent wasn't it. I was hoping Vincent wasn't it, because that's my... Well, that is the UP section, even though I'd have to... In reality, I should be putting the BNSF down here and switching this around. Turn that into my BNSF section. I don't know. I don't know what the... Really doesn't matter. I mean, that's just all fictitious stuff anyways, but... Oh, we got one out of Highland coming. Z train. Right. Guess I'd be going this way now. Yeah, I think I can light it up because I think they come down here. I'll have to start adding more UP trains and making it more interesting. Perhaps I'll just find a bunch of symbols and just add them in. Do a 50-50 mix with UP and BNSF. I think there's not enough UP. Like, have we had... Was that a UP train? I don't think it was. Yeah. Holy smoke. Well, there's lots of miles to run, that's for sure, but what I like about it is it's spread out, it's open. Openness leads to the ability to multitask. At least a little bit, especially when you're familiar with something. Okay, here's the one. Was it Vulcan Materials or something? That's interesting. And there's so many that could potentially lead to their own operations. It's amazing that all of a sudden I, just post a message on a Wikia forum, and then suddenly I'm like, now I'm kind of psyched up about it again. I don't know. I never thought of Bakersfield Project being the one that would psych me up, because California for me has always expanded. And I know, this isn't going to bode well for those that have Cajon, who have those other, big routes and extensions and 800 miles and whatever. I gotta stop worrying about what them and just think about myself. Be a little selfish. It's never stopped me before. So I've been accused of many things. So okay, so is that the one that just took off? I think it was. I could be wrong. Looks like it. So there's not too many industries out here, which is okay. And again, it's going to be a proto-Lance type thing anyways. I'm not too worried about sticking to a prototype, or it can just be what it's going to be. I think I'll run BNSF off to Vincent as opposed to the way we have it set up now. And of course, those following me on YouTube, I mean, you make your comments, suggestions, whatever. And those that are looking to run, maybe there's hope. I don't know. It wouldn't take me much to start hosting again, to be quite honest. I don't see why it wouldn't, because I'm just trying to remember how I had it set up. I kind of want to get the locals. Oh no, there's another one right here. What are you? You're nothing? Oh, okay. That one doesn't have an industry set up. Our team is... Oh, here we go. Where did I go? Okay. Did I miss Highland Siding? I must have. Whatever. Oh, I'm already gone past it. Okay, so I'm definitely looking at this. Yeah. Where do you want to go? Your bare table train. 5107. So yeah, I'll have to play around with the traffic a little bit and make it interesting and all that, but oops, I don't know why I did that. There. Okay, so I think that'll be it for tonight. And well, there's hope yet, I guess. Like I said, I ain't promising anything, and maybe I'll make a slight reply to my previous comment that I made on the forums, and we'll see. I would like to get at least some type of industry set up, so that if I am going to run a server, the potential's there. I don't have to run a whole cycle like I would like I would. The reason why I wanted to go through a couple days with Sanford was because I had a whole setup of having the industry set up and all that stuff. So train units in the world, 796. Just let me take a look here. Yeah, that's just all main lines right now. And not one UP train for whatever reason. I'll figure that out later. But for now, I'll put this in there as an overwrite. And we will end it there. Actually, I want to go back into that for one more second. I want to see if that was I can't remember if that was the last thing I did. I'm pretty sure it was. I can't think of anything else. But anyways, yeah, I'll leave it there for now. And, well, we'll see. My weekend's coming up. I'll have to think about it. I'm not going to worry about, with my son and all that. He's got to motivate himself just as much. And, I got to do the same thing, I suppose. So, anyways, that's it for now. We'll see what happens. That's all I can say. And I'm not making any promises or guarantees or whatever, or how long I'm going to do it. It's kind of crazy, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, I'll probably go on to Train Sim. I'll even post a reply to Dale, but maybe he might leave the message now that I'm suddenly reconsidering, at least. But because we certainly would like exposure if and when we do post again. But as long as I can run it myself, that's the main thing. I have to be able to run it myself and not rely on anybody but myself, and enjoy it myself. So far, we'll see. We'll see what happens, and I want to have time to be able to do other projects too. So maybe we'll see how it goes. If I run a Sunday, or instead of a Sunday, run a Monday, and then maybe run a Wednesday. I can run 2 times a week. That should be plenty. And then I have plenty of other time to do it, like a Thursday night, like tonight, and work on other projects. Okay, that's it. I'm yapping too much, so I'll think about things tomorrow if I'm not too busy, and over the weekend and into Sunday. See how I feel Sunday. Sunday will be the big tell. If I'm really pumped up about this, you know where I'll be. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. Anyways, have a good one. We'll talk to you later.